Snow back into the forecast. How many days over the next 7 will you see snow falling? I'll let you know.
Do people like shooting victims or stabbing victims have a constitutional right to receive first aid by police? Tonight, why Salt Lake City says they don't.
A predator is on the loose in a popular Utah reservoir, and it's only getting worse.
From a biologist standpoint, this is about as bad as it gets.
How the actions of just one person set off a chain reaction.
There's not enough women, there's not enough minorities.
Plus, how a group of candidates is working to make the Utah legislature more diverse.
And it's a story 100 years in the making. An exclusive look at a Utah dance hall frozen in time and its possible future.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Utah is bracing for a series of storms that have already begun to hit the Beehive State.
You can see snow in the southern part of the state today, with several systems lined up to bring a blast of Arctic air and finally widespread precipitation. Good evening, everyone. Utah's Weather Authority Breck Bolton has the timing on the storm, so let's get right to it, Breck.
Well, we're seeing our impact of our first storm as the focus has been mainly across central and southern Utah. Looking at satellite radar, you can see the blue. That is snow that's been falling here throughout most of the late afternoon hours into the evening. Earlier on, we had rain showers in St. George. You're getting a little bit of a break. You move along I-15 on your way to Cedar City. You're encountering the snow as it's falling, as it's been sticking to the grassy surfaces. But now, as temperatures have been cooling off, we're seeing slushy conditions develop here along I-15, which will be an issue here in the overnight hours. Moving a little bit further eastward, we're seeing some snow from Kanab up through Panguitch into Bryce Canyon, Escalante as well. The storm moving eastward, so south central, southeastern Utah in its sights. You'll see the development of some snow that will continue on throughout most of the evening. As we take a look across northern Utah, seeing a light snow impact here, especially as we look along I-80, Tooele County, moving further northward, avoiding most of the Wasatch Front. We don't get into the mix here across northern Utah until tomorrow. And right now we're taking a look at this, where most of the radar showing an indication of some light snow showers. So accumulating snow, problems for your morning commute, not so much here across northern Utah, except if you're making your move along I-80 heading westbound. Mountains should be okay for tomorrow. As we're waking up, we're going to see maybe just a few light snow showers here across the north. Highs today in the 40s. We're cooling down. We mentioned that blast of cold air. That's what the storms will bring. As again, we've got a series of storms moving through. How much snow are we expecting leading up to the weekend? I'll answer that coming up in just a bit.
Who did? No. You don't know? Help. Okay, the medical's here right now.
Can't breathe.
Tonight, a story that impacts anyone who lives or visits Utah's capital city.
Do I go out there and help him?
No, I don't want you to go out there.
Attorneys for Salt Lake City say victims of violent crime do not have a constitutional right to receive first aid when police respond to a 911 call.
You got a guy bleeding out in the elevator.
If you need help, don't call the police because they're not going to give it to you.
I'm Fox 13 investigative reporter Adam Herbets, and as you're about to see, the experts we've interviewed say it sets a dangerous precedent. And it's not the first time Salt Lake City has changed its story.
What's going on? What's going on?
What's going on? Hey.
It's been 3 years since Salt Lake City police responded to the Covey Apartments downtown. Ryan Outlaw was bleeding on the floor of an elevator. He begged for first aid, but these two officers would not help, despite hours of medical training.
Ryan, crawl out of the elevator, okay? Hey, come this way. What happened?
It took police 27 minutes to arrive after the first 911 call.
What am I supposed to do? We have medical coming.
For paramedics, about 8 minutes more. Outlaw eventually died at the hospital, 2 hours, 10 minutes after the first 911 call.
I feel like I should have grabbed my chest seal.
What?
I feel like I should have grabbed my chest seal, but there was just so much going on at that moment.
Officers Ian Anderson and Jada Brown may have questioned themselves, but that's not the message they received from Salt Lake City's mayor and police chief.
Absolutely, I stand by these officers and what they did that day. I think they did a great job.
Our officers, we believe
did as they were trained.
Ryan, stay with me.
At first, Ian Anderson wrote in his report the reason he didn't give first aid is because he didn't want the elevator to close, an excuse that surprised law enforcement professionals across the country, including Salt Lake City's former police chief.
If the elevator closing and leaving the floor is so important, pull the person out.
Then Mayor Aaron Mendenhall wrote it was unsafe for the officers to give first aid.
This is the mayor's statement. There remained an active threat to everyone present that night, including the medical personnel.
Okay.
This is the the police department statement. Within 2 minutes of them arriving, the scene was safe for paramedics. So which is it?
Now an attorney for the city says, quote, Mr. Outlaw had no constitutional right to receive adequate medical care because he was not arrested or detained. In other words, victims don't have the same rights as suspects.
I think that they're wrong.
James Roberts is an attorney for the Outlaw family. He says he's shocked with Salt Lake City's mayor and police chief.
The fact that they stood by them from day one and then cleared them tells me that this is exactly the policy and practice that the city wants their officers to do.
I'm glad your story called the Mayor Mendenhall to account. She should have to account. She's the mayor.
Bob Sykes is a civil rights attorney and former Utah state legislator with no ties to the pending lawsuit. He agreed to look at the case as a neutral third party.
He was detained because they're asking him questions. He's not free to leave. Now, maybe he couldn't leave because of the stab wound.
He says the city's latest excuse is strange. He does not expect it to get past a judge, and he hopes the Outlaw family has its day in court.
You don't want to overburden the police and make the police social workers or nurses or doctors in every case. They're law enforcement.
Do you know what happened?
But you got a guy bleeding out in the elevator. Death is stalking that young man. People expect them to have at least minimal knowledge to help them, if they've been stabbed, for heaven's sakes. That's not too much to ask, is it?
If another officer would have been stabbed and laying in that elevator, I guarantee you they would have done everything they could to ensure that he was provided life-saving measures until EMTs arrived.
I can't breathe.
We reached out to Salt Lake City 15 days ago for comment. We can tell they've read our emails, but so far they have not responded. According to court filings, they're also citing government immunity. By the way, I also asked Governor Spencer Cox about this several weeks ago. If you'd like to see his full, unedited response to our questions, we'll put that online, fox13now.com. For now, reporting in studio, Adam Herbets, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Adam, thank you so much. We are hearing from the family of the Park City man who was found dead partially inside the engine of a Delta jetliner Monday night. The family of 30-year-old Kyler Effinger believe he was having a mental health crisis. Effinger loved skiing, music, his dogs, and the Utes, but his family says he was struggling with mental health. On Monday night, Effinger was supposed to be on a flight to Denver to see his sick grandfather, but his parents say he had an episode at the airport, went through an airport security door and crawled into the plane's engine while it was de-icing.
We got held up in security, missed his flight, and those phone calls I just knew it was coming on. He was just super, they call it the manic phase. And those just don't end well for him. And this one, obviously, worst ever.
The Effingers hope to continue this dialogue about mental health and want their lasting efforts to be Kyler's legacy. If you or someone you know is struggling, call the Mental Health Crisis Hotline 988.
Almost 7 months after 3 bodies were found in the mountains in Tooele County, the man prosecutors believe is responsible was finally charged today. Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill announced 6 first-degree felony charges against Cesar Mateus Sevilla Alaman. He faces 3 aggravated kidnapping and 3 aggravated murder charges. Rocio Bustamante, Carlos Sepulveda, and Zamir Sanchez disappeared 22 months ago in March of 2022. Their bodies were found by training cadaver dogs back in April of 23. Investigators believe their deaths have to do with a drug debt of $2,400.
When you talk about it in dollars and cents, that's just money. It can never rationalize the loss of human life.
Witnesses told law enforcement that Bustamante wasn't even an intended victim. She just happened to be there. The suspect is already serving time for an unrelated shooting at Utah Lake in September of 2022. It is now official. Utah Congressman John Curtis will not seek re-election to the House.
Instead, he filed today to run for U.S. Senate, joining a crowded field of Republicans. Curtis had gone back and forth about whether he'd run for the Senate. At first, he said he wouldn't. Then he said he'd reconsider. He tells Fox 13 News he believes he can be more effective in the Senate.
Clear, right? The House is in as much dysfunction as they have historically ever been in. I don't think that's reason enough, but it's also true that the Senate is a platform that is more powerful, that it's broader, and more opportunity to impact.
Curtis says if he's elected, he wants to tackle inflation, debt, border security, as well as energy and climate policy.
As we've been showing you on Fox 13 News, candidates are filing to run for political office. A group of people jumping in, all in hopes of making the legislature a little more diverse. A number of Asian American and Pacific Islander candidates have filed to run for state legislature.
Right now is our time, and when I say our time, it's the everyday person's time. It's our community's time to have a voice, to be heard, to have policies that reflect our families and our community.
Currently, there is only one Asian American state lawmaker. Senator Karen Kwan says she welcomes her fellow candidates.
We've had a large increase of wrong-way drivers in the state of Utah.
After months of crashes involving wrong-way drivers in Utah, tonight steps are being taken to better equip first responders for these dangerous situations. We'll show you in our latest Driven to Change report.
Plus, after years of renovations, parts of Temple Square are beginning to reopen. We'll take a look at the major project.
The Jazz go after their 5th home win in a row tonight against the lowly Detroit Pistons. Can they get a win tonight? We'll have the highlights coming up.
Welcome back. Let's go outside right now. UDOT traffic camera. This is actually in Bryce Canyon. The snow has been falling. Still seeing some light snow showers, but the snow has been sticking to the roads, accumulating. We picked up anywhere between 2 to 3 inches, and we're just starting. How long will this storm last? And how's it look for the weekend? I'll let you know coming up in just a few minutes.
Tonight, in our latest Driven to Change report, we're focusing on solutions. With wrong-way drivers making headlines the past few months, Utah Highway Patrol decided to join forces with local law enforcement agencies to practice maneuvers aimed at stopping wrong-way drivers. Today, UHP worked with Farmington, Kaysville, Layton, Clearfield, and Syracuse police departments at the soon-to-be-completed West Davis Highway to practice.
A large increase of wrong-way drivers in the state of Utah, specifically in the urban areas. So Salt Lake, Utah County, and Davis County, and Weber County. It's a combined speed. So if you're going 70 miles an hour and they're going 70 miles an hour, their force of impact is 140 miles an hour, which is a lot more dangerous for us and even the people that get hit.
Sergeant Christensen there adds that most of these accidents are preventable since most are caused by people who are driving under the influence.
An invasive species of fish has been discovered at Strawberry Reservoir. The lake is stocked with cutthroat trout, rainbow trout, and kokanee salmon. But on December 21st, an angler caught a walleye, which the Division of Wildlife Resources says is cause for alarm since the walleye is considered a top predator. And authorities say having walleye in Strawberry Reservoir is no accident.
A lot of people out there, I think, are sometimes a little short-sighted or selfish in wanting a certain fish species in whatever water. And and have a tendency to sometimes move those around or think that they can. Unfortunately, it is an illegal activity. It's something that we would prosecute if we could find out about it. And it like I say, from our perspective, it happens far too often.
If you visit Strawberry Reservoir in the next few weeks, watch for any walleyes. If you catch one, do not release it and report it to DWR at 1-800-662-3337.
All right, let's turn to your weather forecast. Big changes, as we've been mentioning, leading up to this point. We knew we would start into a storm cycle, and here we go as we're starting to see the snow showers, particularly across central and southern Utah. Some light snow on our Oquirrh Mountains. As we know with this storm system for northern Utah, not much of an impact, but we have been seeing some areas through Tooele County, Vernon up through Stansbury, moving further northward. Current temperatures in the low to mid 30s. We've seen a decent temperature drop, at least as we move through the afternoon into the early evening hours. And just wait, we've got some cold air on tap. But as we've talked about this first storm, the biggest focus will be across southern Utah. From the National Weather Service for the central and southern mountains, we do have a winter weather advisory that'll be in place as we go through Thursday, where, as you can see, until 11 o'clock, this is an area where we've already picked up anywhere between 2 to 4 inches of snow, as it will continue on here tonight into tomorrow morning and lingering on throughout the afternoon hours. As we take a look from our computer models of how much snow we're expecting to see leading up over the next 48 hours, an additional 6 inches is possible. Brian Head turning over towards Fish Lake. Potentially we could pick up maybe an inch or so there. Panguitch close to 2 inches. This is from the first series of storms where, as we mentioned, going through the weekend, it will continue on. As we look with Friday's storm, we add on additional snow, maybe an additional 6 to 7 inches. So this is good news for, of course, for our ski resorts, for our mountains. Not good news for traveling is I-15 here for tonight through tomorrow morning. You're definitely waking up to slushy roads from Cedar City all the way up through Fillmore and potentially further northward. Now, here across northern Utah, as we get things going with this first storm, we will see a little bit of impact with light snow showers. How much are we expecting? Not much, maybe an inch, if that even, as most locations from a quarter to a half of an inch, even as we look across Salt Lake City. Park City, 0.2 inches. But again, as we get things going with our second storm, which looks to hit Friday night through Saturday morning, that's when we could potentially see some changes. Let's take a look then with these storms pushing through. The first one, as we've been highlighting and focusing in on targeting, moving through southern Utah, it continues to track through south central, southeastern Utah, heading into tomorrow morning. So areas such as Moab, Blanding, Monticello, over towards Kanab, that's definitely the southeast quadrant of the state that will continue to see the snow, as we can potentially see for some of the valley locations anywhere between 1 to 3 inches. For the mountains across central Utah, we'll keep it going throughout the day. That northerly flow allows the snow to kick in here across northern Utah, but nothing of significance here across the north. So as far as any potential concerns, both for the morning and afternoon commute, that light snow shouldn't be a problem because it's been warm up to this point. So the roads, again, at that surface, warm enough where we don't see that snow sticking. Now, the question is, though, as we head into the weekend, colder air moves in, dropping those temperatures with a little bit more exposure to colder air. That's where we could definitely see canyon travel an issue here, leading from Friday night to Saturday morning. It's Friday afternoon that we start to see a bigger threat with snow showers across the valley floors. Mountains could potentially pick up from that storm, that second wave, anywhere between 4 to 8 inches, and the valleys maybe 1 to 3 inches. But it's a bigger storm Saturday night through Sunday. This is going to bring statewide precipitation, a lot more snow, and mountains we're talking on a range, as you can see it lining up, getting ready for Saturday into Sunday, anywhere between 1 foot to 1.5 foot of snow. But tonight, it's light snow showers, maybe a mixture of some rain and snow as temperatures look to drop in the upper 20s. Tomorrow, it's colder, light snow here across northern Utah, a little lingering snow across southeastern Utah, and then we're going to start getting ready for the weekend, where for St. George, you're fine to go here up until Sunday, where you see a mixture of some rain and snow and some colder temperatures next week. We're getting down into the 30s. Northern Utah, look how many days we see a chance of snow. Light snow tomorrow, Friday night through Saturday, more snow on Sunday, then another storm Tuesday and Wednesday, a blast of cold air. We're seeing temperatures getting down into the 20s. We'll be back right after the break.
Welcome back, everyone. We do have an update on the mass carbon monoxide poisoning at a meeting house for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the city of Monroe. That's in Sevier County. This happened on New Year's Eve. Local church leaders say carbon monoxide monitors will now be installed. The state fire marshal tells our content sharing partners at the Salt Lake Tribune the building wasn't required to have them. Public buildings, including churches, are required to meet all codes in place at the time of their construction. The meeting house was built several decades ago before carbon monoxide detectors were required.
Temple Square in downtown Salt Lake City is beginning to reopen this week as the major renovation project continues. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints says the plaza near the church office building, the north part of Main Street Plaza, and the northwest plaza of Temple Square will reopen on Saturday. The Assembly Hall and surrounding gardens will still be closed as crews renovate that building. Renovation on the temple itself will continue in an elaborate and complex effort to reinforce the building against major earthquakes. The church prepared a detailed explanation of the work being done, graphically showing why great care is being taken as the foundation was completely excavated.
If too much earth is removed, this pressure can squeeze the earth out from beneath the temple, with disastrous results. A 40-foot secant wall made of interlocking steel and concrete columns was designed to keep everything secure and in place. The wall acts like a giant collar, keeping the earth beneath the stone structure stable, while the reinforced cylindrical beams are installed. As each cylinder is placed, additional concrete is used to fill in any gaps above and below until the original foundation rests completely on this new enlarged platform.
98 base isolators have been placed under the temple so the ground can move 5 feet in any direction without the system failing. The temple walls are being reinforced throughout, as are the spires. The renovation project is expected to continue until 2026. An alleged human trafficking operation involving a Utah business. Coming up, what the defendants asked for today in court.
Nearly 1,000 pages released to the public today. What's inside the unsealed Jeffrey Epstein documents? Coming up.
Only one Pac-12 men's basketball team is ranked in the top 25, and it's not the Utes. We'll hear from Craig Smith on what he thinks about the Pac-12 this season.
Moments from another time, sealed for decades above a store in a small Utah city. Tonight, a look at the dance hall time capsule.
You may remember in November, 3 executive officers of the West Bountiful Company Rubicon were arrested on multiple human trafficking charges, possibly involving hundreds of employees.
This afternoon, all 3 defendants had a motion hearing. Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree listened in and joins us live now in studio with an update on this case. Jenna.
Well, back in November, the Utah Attorney General charged Rubicon President Tyler Brinkman, Chief Financial Officer Clayton Phillips, and Human Resources Executive Adam Perea with 7 counts of aggravated human trafficking and 1 count of pattern of unlawful activity following their alleged actions with employees brought into the country from Mexico. The charges allege the landscaping and snow removal company forced employees to live in less than desirable company-owned housing while forcing them to pay rent that would be deducted from their pay. Rubicon also allegedly failed to pay the employees while also forcing them to purchase company phones in order to use a company app. During the virtual court hearing this afternoon, the Utah Assistant Attorney General raised concerns that Rubicon was forcing the migrant workers as a condition of their employment to come in for interviews to talk about the allegations.
The second we start telling someone they have to subject themselves to an interview, we're taking away a significant amount of their rights, right? We're taking away the ability, especially when you're saying, hey, by the way, if you don't, we'll ship you back home. You won't have a job and you leave.
There seems to be legitimate reasons why the company's counsel
may have reason to speak with some of its employees, even including some of its H-2B employees, to investigate the allegations of human trafficking that have that are at the center of these criminal cases.
Ultimately, the judge ruled to allow Rubicon to continue interviewing the workers. In the charges, employees said they were not allowed to miss work due to medical reasons, but were not given medical care. The company executives would allegedly threaten the employees with deportation if they tried to call out of work or attempt to get care. Some employees said they were not trained on how to drive the snowplows they were expected to use, and some didn't know how to drive at all. In a statement to Fox 13 News in November, Rubicon denied any wrongdoing and says they have complied in good faith with all applicable laws. At last check, no other hearings have been scheduled. Reporting in studio, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Jenna, thank you. A former Delta pilot accused of threatening to shoot the captain of a flight headed from Atlanta to Salt Lake City in 2022 will appear in federal court tomorrow afternoon in Salt Lake. Court documents indicate there was a passenger suffering from a medical issue, and the captain suggested to his co-pilot, 42-year-old Jonathan Dunn, that the flight could be diverted to Grand Junction, Colorado, if the passenger's condition worsened. Well, Dunn objected to the captain's plan and said he would shoot the captain multiple times for, quote, going crazy, adding he would have to keep shooting because the captain would be, quote, still twitching. Dunn's court appearance is scheduled for 3 p.m. tomorrow at the Orrin Hatch Federal Courthouse in downtown Salt Lake. We'll keep track of this and have updates tomorrow right here on Fox 13 News.
New at 9, murder charges against the woman accused of shooting and killing a professional bull rider in Salt Lake City have been dismissed and the shooting ruled as justified. 23-year-old LaShawn Bagley was accused of murdering professional bull rider 27-year-old Demetrius Allen in September of 2022. Officers responded to a shooting in the Ballpark neighborhood and found him with a gunshot wound. He later died at the hospital. Court documents state the night of the shooting, Demetrius and another woman were attempting to break into Bagley's house. Bagley had called 911 and told the operator she was shooting and later stated she was out of bullets. Today, a judge ruled she had acted in defense and the shooting was justified. The case has been dismissed. Salt Lake police need your help to find a suspect in the capital city's first homicide of 2024.
This investigation started just after 11 a.m. today when officers were called to a storage facility at 502 West, 300 South. When officers went inside, they immediately found the victim's body and started to process the crime scene for evidence. The victim has not yet been publicly identified, pending next of kin notification. If you have any information that could help the investigation, call Salt Lake Police. Utah Republicans will have a Democratic challenger in the race for governor.
Governor Spencer Cox and Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson filed to run for re-election today. Meanwhile, Democratic Salt Lake City Representative Brian King also filed today to challenge them. King says he wants to talk about government overreach, reproductive rights, education, and the Great Salt Lake as he campaigns for office. The governor says he wants to build on the success of his first term in office, focusing on housing affordability and the cost of living.
Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was back in Salt Lake today. He submitted signatures to qualify for the 2024 presidential ballot here. You'll recall Kennedy sued the state, challenging its deadlines for signatures. The lieutenant governor agreed to give him an extension. Kennedy, an environmental lawyer and anti-vaccine activist, dropped his bid for the Democratic nomination to run as an independent.
Coming up, hundreds of pages of documents have now been unsealed connected to accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. What we've learned, still ahead.
And it's a uniquely Utah story, nearly a century in the making. We'll take you inside Van's Dance Hall in Delta. Well, the wait to learn who kept Company with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein is heating up.
Scripps News national correspondent Alex Miller has details on what's behind the release of pages and pages of unsealed documents in the case.
Well, this was an incredibly huge document dump, 942 pages, some 50 individual documents listing people who were involved at least to some degree with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, we are not naming most names specifically because there's a lot of context to go through here and explain and understand why some people have been named. Not everybody has done something criminal. Some people were just in certain locations. So we want to make sure that we wade through all of that before we disclose any important names to you. Now, one thing we did get was Virginia Giuffre's deposition. She does name specific names in there about specific men that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein directed her to have sex with while she was underage. Now, there are some names that have been redacted in this particular deposition. This is something that a judge allowed while she considers a couple of people and whether their names should continue to be redacted. We could have that decision as early as January 22nd, so we could have more names added. And then we got a deposition from Ghislaine Maxwell herself. She has asked a lot of very specific questions about what she did on behalf of Jeffrey Epstein, about things that she may have allowed Jeffrey Epstein to do, girls that she had directed to sleep with Jeffrey Epstein. Obviously, she denied all of this in the deposition, but she was also asked some personal questions about her own relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, whether she considered herself his girlfriend. Sometimes she says yes, sometimes she says she wishes, sometimes she says no, but clear that her involvement very specifically connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Again, she is serving 20 years in prison relating to this specific case with Virginia Giuffre. Obviously, we will continue to work through this and get you the specific names as they are warranted. Alex Miller, Scripps News, New York.
Now, before we go to break, let's turn towards Bryce Canyon. Ruby's in. The snow continues to fall. They picked up about 3 inches so far, and we're just getting started. The northern mountains will get into the mix. How much fresh powder are we expecting after all these storms pass through? Plus, will you have to do any shoveling this weekend? I'll answer that coming up after the break.
Live pictures getting people excited, so is this. The Utah Jazz and the Detroit Pistons are in overtime right now at the Delta Center.
Fox 13 Sports Director Jeff Rainier is monitoring this very close game. He'll have the highlights coming up in Fox 13 Sports.
Come on, Jazz.
Come on, Jazz.
We'll be right back.
Well, welcome back. This may be a welcome sight for some. We're seeing a mixture of some rain and snow down in Kanab. Actually, it was rain, now transitioning over into snow. Yeah, across southern Utah, we're going to see snow in the overnight hours. How far will this snow spread as we look towards the weekend? And how will this impact your weekend plans? I'll answer that coming up in just a bit.
In a story nearly a century in the making, a dance hall, like many across the U.S., built in the 30s and 40s, sits above an unassuming store in Delta, Utah. But what is uncommon is the out-of-this-world look that went into the building.
Tonight, Fox 13 News reporter Spencer Joseph and former Fox 13 News reporter Todd Tanner take us inside as the very first TV crew to be allowed into this space in this edition of Uniquely Utah.
It's been a hidden secret.
How could something that's this beautiful and this grand be so forgotten?
It's almost impossible to imagine what's up on the second floor of this old building.
I would dare bet most of the people in Delta in my generation and younger don't even know this exists here.
Look at this.
This is the first time a TV news crew has ever been allowed inside. After all, the dance hall you're looking at has been closed for half a century or so.
We are at Dance Hall in Delta, Utah.
Letting us in, Lori Griffiths and Kevin Morris.
My dad and mom, I know, come here in the 50s and danced. That it was one of the best times of their lives.
Dancing to live music was all the rage when this place opened in the 1920s.
That was where the band would play.
This sometimes had 300, 400, 500 people up here dancing.
And while there were dance halls all over America, it's safe to say none of them looked quite like this.
They just said it was the nicest floor to dance on that people had ever seen. And my mom is a dancer. She just loved it. It was made out of vinyl records melted down. And so it was a very shiny black floor.
From the hand-cut mirrored glass pressed into horsehair plaster to form hundreds of stars around the room, to a giant mirror ball with
the temple on the top.
And then I think the history starts to settle into people too, like who did this and what and why?
Roger Roper spent his career working in historic preservation for the state of Utah.
There's nothing I've seen like Vance Hall.
And he's done some research on the man who built it.
Billy Van Devanter, and he went by Billy Van.
He ran an auto parts store by day and worked on his dance hall at night.
Most of it was completed by the 30s or 40s.
And in spite of some Mormon imagery,
Billy Van was not LDS.
Billy tried to have something for everyone.
Yeah, on Saturdays, Billy Van used to put on a puppet show and let the kids come up here and they'd sit on the floor and he would do different shows for them. He was just trying to keep people entertained. We're very rural, very isolated.
Billy Van died in 1942, but the dancing continued on for a while.
The story was, by the time my parents came along, like in the 50s, that Vance Hall was maybe not a place that nice girls go to that much. And my grandfather talked about going there his very first time. He came in, ready to go up the stairs, and two guys came rumbling down the stairs, fighting each other, rolling down the stairway.
By the 70s, the party was officially over. And since then, few have been inside.
Who owns the building now?
It's called the Delta Area Restoration Committee.
Lori Griffiths is on that committee. Funds to preserve the dance hall have been very limited.
The best thing that I could do for the hall is make sure the windows were all in. And 2 or 3 times a year I'd come up and one would be out and broken, so I'd go get new glass and put it in. And
so you've been the glass repairman for the last
Yes,
10
I
years.
have.
A feasibility study has found the building to be structurally sound, and recently repairs have been made to the roof.
So maybe someday this gets to a place where it's open to the public again.
That's what we would hope.
But that will take time and money. Big expenses include a sprinkler system and other safety features before big crowds could ever come back.
I want it to be something that the community can use. They may have a family reunion up here or, some kind of a party or
maybe even a dance or two.
It's just a magical place.
Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
It was cool to see what was inside there. Speaking of being inside, maybe plans indoors heading into the weekend, but for some of you, licking your chops knowing that we're going to get some fresh snow, want to get out to those ski resorts, doing some winter activities where we definitely have been lacking in the snow department here over the past several days, even weeks, but the snow, we got it going today. For southern Utah, here's a photo coming up on our Facebook page, Kent. In Zion National Park, on the east side of the park, the snow was falling and accumulating. This is just the beginning of a series of storms as we look ahead for the next several days. We haven't seen the snow as of yet, at least in Salt Lake City. We have been seeing in some areas across northern Utah some light snow showers throughout the evening, mainly over towards Tooele and Box Elder County. Temperatures have been dropping. We've got mostly cloudy conditions. We're at 33 degrees in Salt Lake City. Haven't seen the improvement with air quality as of yet. Still here across most of northern Utah. We're either in that moderate concern level, moving into that unhealthy for sensitive groups. That's orange. We're seeing the orange through Davis County, moving through the Salt Lake Valley. It's really across the Salt Lake Valley that we've seen the worst air quality here, at least throughout northern Utah over the past few days. Earlier on, we actually was green in Utah County, but right now we're seeing a little bit of a transition as warmer air above kind of solidifying the inversion that will be in place here for the next 24 hours. We'll see some slight improvements come tomorrow, but big improvements for the weekend. Yes, for the weekend, you'll be breathing easier And again, we're going to be welcoming in a lot more snow here looking ahead. For tonight, though, the storm moving through southern Utah. That's where we find the winter weather advisory in place for the National Weather Service, which will be in effect until tomorrow evening. We've already picked up anywhere between 2 to 4 inches for some mountain locations. It will continue on here in the overnight hours as the storm moves eastward, southeastern Utah. You start to see the snow hitting come tomorrow morning. Now, from this first storm, again, the impact across southern Utah, we do get a little push of some moisture here across northern Utah. We're not going to see a lot here over the next 24 hours. Light snow expected. I don't see a big impact here for your roads here throughout northern Utah, both for the morning and afternoon commutes. For the mountains, we're going to be picking up anywhere from 1, maybe 3 inches, some spots less than that. But this is just one storm out of 3 as we move through the weekend. The second storm hits tomorrow night. Let me just show you what we're expecting with that second wave coming through. By Saturday morning, we could add an additional maybe 2, 4, 5 inches for the ski resorts, but that's just getting going. The biggest storm hits come Saturday night through Sunday. 1 foot to 1.5 feet of snow with that third storm. This is good news for the ski resorts. There's your fresh powder that'll be in place, but it will be impacting traveling throughout the weekend, especially the canyons for the mountains for northern central Utah. As we're seeing the showers right now, that snow mainly through Cedar City, Brian Head over towards Panguitch, Bryce Canyon, but again, this will move towards eastern Utah, Hanksville over to Moab, Blanding, Monticello. You're waking up to some light snow showers. Here across northern Utah, still mainly confined to Box Elder County. We're seeing that snow. We'll get a push coming in from the north. That spreads here along the Wasatch Front, but again, it's light snow showers that we're looking at. So looking at the computer models, you see that light blue. That's less than 1 inch for the valley floors and a little bit for the mountains, but we'll get things going, filling in a little bit better with that second storm. It seems like with each subsequent storm, we squeeze out a little bit more snow, and the third one, that's the one that's going to be a big hit here throughout the state. Now for tomorrow, morning commute, some clouds, some light snow showers. Again, I don't see a big impact from this first storm moving through. It will be colder though here across northern Utah. We'll see some slight improvements with air quality, with better improvements for the weekend for St. George. You're going to get a break from the storms, a little bit colder and dropping temperatures with that second storm. Could see a mixture of rain and snow. Look at those highs next week. We've been enjoying the 50s. You're going to get down into the 40s, even 30s as we look towards Tuesday. All right, let's take a look over the next 7 days. Light snow tomorrow, Friday afternoon through Friday night into early Saturday morning. That's our second wave. And then late Saturday night through Sunday. Sunday is a snow day, accumulating for the valley floors, 2 to 6 inches for the valleys. This is a day you'll probably be doing some shoveling. Maybe you got that new snowblower for Christmas. You get to use it. And then more snow on tap late Tuesday through Wednesday. Here we go. We're getting the snow going. Let's bring it in. And here just in time for the weekend.
Utah Jazz went into tonight's game against Detroit, playing well, winners of 8 of their last 11 games and 4 in a row at home. Could they make it 5 straight against the 3-win Pistons? Pistons don't win a lot of games, but they have talent. Cade Cunningham goes in for the throwdown. Then he feeds it to Jalen Duran. He gets a slam over Walker Kessler, and watch this, rides him for a little bit and goes down. Everybody would be okay. The Pistons led it most of the way, but the Jazz stayed in it ahead to Keontae George for the jam. The Jazz were up by 3. It was tied 132 with just over 30 seconds to play when Jordan Clarkson knocked down the 3. Jazz back up 3. Back came the Pistons. Bojan Bogdanovic. 3 is good. That tied the score at third. He had 36 points against his old team. Other end, it's Lauri Markkanen for 3. Money. Jazz up 3, Markkanen with 31 points, but still time for the Pistons, and it's another former Jazz player, Alec Burks. Can you believe it? That tied the game at 138, forced overtime. AB with 27 points. In OT, it's JC again, another big 3. Can you believe it? He finished with 36 points, 154-148. The Jazz beat the Pistons in overtime to improve to 16-19. Wow, Weber State took on South Dakota State, the Big Sky Summit Challenge. Blaze 3 for 3. It's good. He had 17 points for the Wildcats. Then it's Dyson Kohler. His 3 is up and good. He finished with 15 points. Both of those buckets came on assists from Dylan Jones. He had 9 assists, but he made the shots down the stretch. Drives and scores it off the glass, plus the foul. 3-point play to put the Wildcats up by 13. It was tied in the final seconds. Jones working with it into the paint. The shot is up and good for the win. Final two of his 23 points were the difference, the game winner, leading Weber State to a 75-73 win to improve to 10-4. Rams rookie wide receiver Puka Nacua has been named to the NFC Pro Bowl roster. The former BYU Cougar and Orem Tiger is one of 7 NFL players with local ties selected to the Pro Bowl. Former BYU star Fred Warner of the 49ers will start at linebacker for the NFC. Ahead of Utah State, Bobby Wagner plays for the Seahawks. The rest of the list includes former Utah Ute and Bears corner Jalen Johnson, seen here, special teamer Miles Killebrew of the Steelers, who played at Southern Utah. Weber State's Rashid Shaheed here as a kick returner for the Saints, and Lions offensive tackle Penny Sewell from Desert Hills.
Anybody who had tickets to the Jazz game tonight, it was worth every penny.
The last 30 seconds, both teams made 2 3-pointers to go ahead to tie it. It was just nuts.
And Bogdanovich was just hot.
Yeah,
hot.
He was good against his old team. So was Alec Burks.
Yeah.
Remember him? He had
And
27
JC,
points.
he's going to have to put that oven mitt back on tonight like he did the other night.
Heating up.
He's on fire.
Yeah, no kidding.
What a game. We saw you back there
Yeah, sorry if we
monitoring
yelled
the
a little
game.
bit.
That was a show, too.
Oh, man. How
Wish we
fun.
could have given you tickets. Jeff, thanks. Great highlights tonight.
We'll be right back. The, quote, unbeatable game has finally been beaten by a 13-year-old from Oklahoma. Willis Gibson has become the first person to officially beat Tetris.
Well, I did that about 30 years ago.
Oh, did you? We should have
got
done the
past
story
the
on it.
first level,
He
maybe.
did this by making it to a, quote, kill screen where the game glitches and then crashes. This feat is impressive as the Nintendo game has long been thought of as unbeatable.
Look at his reaction.
Is he excited or is he mad that there's a glitch?
Come here, Mom!
Yeah,
Right.
somebody joined
Does he know what's happening? Wow. I'll tell you, that game was addictive, wasn't it?
It really was. It really was.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
QuickCast is up next.